Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I am Muriel Cooper. I'm the Senior Manager of Stakeholder Relations at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.
It's so good to see each and every one of you. On behalf of my co-chair, Terry Sewell, we wanted to bring greetings to you and thank you for your participation throughout the conference's events, but particularly your presence here today in connection with this very important brother-to-brother conversation. Let me acknowledge the presence of Congressman Hank Johnson from Georgia, who is here today joining us. Thank you. When I was in the New York State Legislature, I'll never forget a conversation that I had with a young African-American male who had come out of the prison system, transformed his life, and had become an activist for formerly incarcerated individuals. And he told me about his final day behind bars. And he said that during his time in the system in New York, he had gotten to know a prison guard, become kind of friendly with him. And so on the last day, he sees this prison guard who he had become friendly with, and the prison guard comes up to him and he says, "I just want to thank you." And the young man was a little perplexed. "Why are you thanking me?" He said, "I just want to thank you for helping me to get my boat. And I want to thank your son for helping my son down the road to get his boat as well." That prison guard was essentially saying there's an expectation of failure for black men in this country, and an expectation of failure that benefits others. The brothers that you are going to see on the stage tonight completely shatter that stereotype. They've been successful in every field of human endeavor, which, by the way, represents the overwhelming majority of African American men in this country. And so I'm thankful for their presence here today, thankful for their participation, thankful for their involvement. We're in the huddle now for the next couple of days. We're in the huddle getting direction so we can go back out on the battlefield and get the job done for our community. God bless you. Thank you for your attendance here today.
He's gotten so many of our young people involved in the political process because they understand his credentials, that he is for real, that he cares about the challenges facing our community, and he cares about the challenges facing our young people. And I like and have grown to love Hakeem because he understands the direct correlation between incarceration and poverty, the direct correlation between poor education and poverty, the direct correlation between poor health and poverty, and the direct correlation between us being victims of crime and poverty. And so we also need to have every discussion focused on economic empowerment of our people.
We have some of the greatest panelists in our country to deal with some of these issues and give us some insight. One of the things we intend to do, just beyond the analysis, is come with some solutions. That's most important this day and age. We know all the challenges, but I also want to start out on a good note as we endeavor to discuss some solutions. Many times in this day and age, we are tempted to lose hope and faith in our young men because of the challenges and the obstacles that they face. But I want us to remember that every struggle that African Americans have endeavored in, we've won. So we're winners, and we're going to win this struggle and this obstacle. When it came to emancipation, we won that struggle. We won school desegregation with Brown versus Board of Education. We won the Civil Rights Act 1964 as a result of Dr. King and the other leaders. 1965 Voting Rights Act, which a little over 40 years later, that Voting Rights Act led to us voting in the first African-American president in the world. So we know how to win, and that's what we want to talk about today.
A lot of our students are very, very smart. I mean, we just saw the other day in the news the young man who brought the clock to school, remember? And they thought it was a bomb, okay? All right? Our kids do that. Our black boys create things. Our black boys and girls are just so innovative. And as a media teacher, my job is not only to teach them technical things, but to get them to think critically. The effect of the educational system, it's changed since we've all been in school, right, gentlemen?
You know, when I was raised, we didn't have too many options, you know, when it came to the education system. We didn't have too many options when it came to what you ate at night and things like that. And so when you go back to what we need to be educating, if you want to defeat the system, educate your mind, right? If you want to defeat a stereotype, do the opposite, right? So when you talk about what the education system is starting to do, me personally, when you think about in Baltimore, the number of kids that drop out of school way too early to even understand school, right? Because it's something else that they're really gravitating to. So the education, if you really think about what education is starting to do, is took a back step to the fancy cars, the money, the fame, the likes, right? And so if we can reverse the curse, me and Pastor was talking about, if you can reverse the curse, go back to old school, recreate in their minds that the number one, the most important thing that matters before you walk out of this house is the brand of my last name, right? Because there's somebody who came before us that paved the way.
Like the reality is a smart brother that's on the corner is not on there by desire. It's because they think that's the only way out.
Yeah.
You know, John O'Brien in Atlanta would always say, if I'm a smart young man who wants to be a scientist and I don't make it, I'm still gonna be a smart brother in science. But if I'm a brother who only plays ball and I break my ankle, I'm gonna be that broke brother on the corner. So we have to find ways to say to the young people, you are smart, you're capable, you're remarkable, I see all these things, and then show them examples like us who have done the right thing, who came out from tough situations and are able to do that. I live in South Bronx. It's the home of hip hop, home of Yankees, home of salsa. It's also the poorest congressional district in the country. When I went back home, I said, look, my family was homeless in Jamaica. We went from no house in Jamaica to the White House in DC to the State House in Albany. You can't tell me you can't make it. And so when you start having those conversations with young people, they get quickly motivated. They just can't see the other options. For them, politics seems so far off. You know, being Ray Lewis and being the MVP, I want to do that, but how do I get there? We don't take the steps to say to the young brothers, here's how you get there. They can see something very easy, the other options. But what we have to end right now, and what's the most frustrating for me, is this notion that our young brothers are not motivated, that they can't do it. They are incredibly motivated. We have to just direct them down the right path.
I would say the church serves as the foundation for the family. The family serves as the foundation for the school system. Because if the parents don't do their job, now Brother Desar's job has become exponentially more difficult. And it's a challenge. I say to our folks all the time, don't send your child with horns on his head out of the door, and then when they get in trouble in school, act like they have a halo over their head. The value starts at home, but the values have to start from someplace else, which is the house of God. And so for us as black folks, we have been a spiritual people. And now that we've got a little education, a little access, we have tried to confine God to emergency situations. The reality is that we've made it thus far undergirded by our faith. And those values are not specific to region or income. I wasn't raised with this kind of suit on. I had patches on, and my mama told me those were designs.
In Ferguson, what we saw a group of working class black people who felt like they had been robbed of their American dream. What we know is that you had a police force here that had been systemically and systematically abusing this population, whether it was through the fines and through the fees. The Department of Justice and the State Commission have now come back and said the way this community was policed was discriminatory. But what also happened in Ferguson, and people don't know this as much, was there's a breakdown of the school system there. There are 3 school districts that serve Ferguson, Missouri. 2 of them have lost their accreditation. The district lines of what school you go to shift from year to year. So one year you might be going to the best school in the district, the next year you're sentenced to an unaccredited school.
So the school district plays a particularly important role in how, one, they determine who goes where and what resources, of course, we know that. Thank you for that observation. And now I'd like to give them a hand.